Welcome. We're so excited that you're here today, and I'd like to introduce Clementine Carnes, one of our osteopaths here at Koru.
Hi everyone, it's good to be here.
And for any of you that don't know me, my name is Prue, and I'm Prue Eddy, and I'm one of the osteopaths here at Koru as well. And we really wanted to connect with you and reflect on what's been happening over obviously the last few weeks. It's all very unprecedented, and I don't know about you, but I've never been in a pandemic. And so with that process, and sitting with what's been happening, was really a reflection about who do you want to be during COVID-19. And so what we want to talk to you today is about maybe taking an opportunity with what's happening to reflect on yourself, who you are, on your life and your mindset, and then seeing how we can channel our time and our energy into something that's positive and fulfilling and is going to help support us just during this process, but also, throughout further into our life. Is there anything you'd like to add, Clint?
I think just that it's a good time to pause and reflect and also think about, where we want to be in 6 months' time, maybe 12 months' time, maybe 18 months' time. We don't really know how long it's going to take. So I think it's just a really great opportunity to pause and reflect and have a think about who we want to be and how can we make some changes now that'll help us get to that point. Yeah.
Fantastic. And so what we're going to give you today is anyone who would like to request them, we can give you a copy of our presentation notes. So feel free to email reception and we'll make sure that we get those out to you. We're also going to be talking about practical strategies and things that you can implement as a part of your daily life and about how to implement that, as well as we're going to talk about an opportunity for one-on-one support. And so from the osteopathic philosophy, so Dr. Still was the founder of osteopathy. And so this quote is from, over 100 years ago, which is to find health should be the object of the doctor. Anyone can find disease. And so, really we want to support health, and healthy well-being means lots of different things. Health doesn't just constitute not having an illness, so the absence of being sick, but rather how can we thrive? And so during this unprecedented time, it's worth us sort of reflecting on what is your natural tendency when things started being reported in the media. How did you feel? How did you respond? Were you stressed? Did you buy up lots of toilet paper? And there's some specific psychological terms around people doing those types of behaviors. And it's really normal that our brain is primed to make us make very rapid decisions, and they're not always necessarily our best decisions on reflection under stress. And so particularly when we're under high levels of stress, we don't want to go without. So it's very normal to engage in those types of behaviors. And then afterwards, once sort of things are settled down a little bit, we think, gosh, why did I respond like that? Maybe you found yourself getting really upset at other things, maybe not even necessarily anything that related to the virus, or angry or confused. So there's all different kinds of ways that people might respond. People might respond with thinking that nothing's actually happening. Maybe there's denial, might be a natural tendency as well as maybe being hopeful and thinking positive. Maybe that's your first go-to response. So it's good just to reflect on what's our natural tendency, and then from there we have something that we can work with. But it has to be honest and true to you. Did you have any natural tendencies you'd like to share, Clem?
Oh, well, I'm actually excited to find out what my natural tendencies are. But I think you really explained it well. That I think it's a great that we don't often take the time to reflect on these things about ourselves, and that there's actually a lot of insight into how we naturally function, and then we can find out whether we want to change that or not. But this is sort of the starting point.
Absolutely. And so, you know, part of it, I think initially lots of people will be like, well, what's our mindset? Is it positive? Is it negative? And often we want to try and put a label on it. And we don't actually have to do that, especially to start with. We can just sit with partly how we feel, as well as how did we respond to the certain circumstance. And then we can move into how did we think about it. Okay. Sometimes it's good to kind of work backwards. And so I wish I could actually credit the person who actually created this diagram, but it's an image that I saw on Facebook, and I thought, yeah, this helps to explain certainly how some people were reacting and responding to what was happening, particularly in the first couple of weeks. And so, you know, they talk about these sort of 3 different concepts of, you know, the fear zone, people acting out of fear, and so getting, you know, upset easily, or, you know, emotional, through to that kind of buying food and needing to making sure that you've got everything that you need, maybe complaining a little bit more than usual, that sort of thing. And then certainly they then talked about that people moving into this sort of learning zone, and sort of a little bit more about self-identification, evaluating information before passing it on, and through to a growth zone. Now, it's quite possible you might relate to every single one of these aspects, and it's not necessarily this linear process of going from fear to learning to growth. You might have initially been very empathetic with yourself and others, and then gone to feeling stressed and emotional. And then you might have been able to identify your emotions, but then you might have, you know, been having a few struggles with things that are in and out of your control. I don't know. I think I relate to nearly every single thing that's in the 3 bubbles.
I was just going to say, I love that I stopped compulsively consuming what hurts me, from food to news. I can relate to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You know, if you're like obsessed about reading every single news report, that's probably, you know, that's can be a little bit compulsive. And I think eventually people do tend to get a bit of news fatigue. And so we have to balance this between, we need to remain informed about what's happening and about the advice from the government in regards to how we can take care of ourselves and take care of our family, what type of services that we're able to access. So that's really important, while at the same time, we don't necessarily need to know every single day or every hour about how many people have been diagnosed, and some of the maybe scary images that we've been seeing, particularly from other countries in regards to what's going on. It's quite normal to relate to all of these different things. And the thing that I think this is really useful for people, but at the same time, this is really a reflection on reactions more than it is on feeling. And so what I wanted to maybe do first was step back from then elevating our reactions to then diving in to consider, can you outthink a feeling? It's actually very difficult to outthink a feeling. So if you've got a negative, or not even negative, I don't like to label things like that, but if you've got an uncomfortable feeling or something that you're struggling with in your body, now that might be in your heart, or maybe when you get stressed, maybe you have a tendency to getting really tense and tight, or maybe you get tummy pains, bit of an anxious tummy. Often we see that with children particularly, but adults can experience that as well. Maybe you're experiencing jaw clenching, for example, jaw pain and headaches. You know, like it's very hard if you've got these different sensations occurring in your body. or it could be on an emotional level about a particular feeling. You know, if you're heartbroken or you're grieving or you're sad, it doesn't matter how much positive psychology that you bring into that, that you can't outthink that feeling. How do you relate to that, Clem?
I think obviously that makes complete sense to me, but I think it might be a difficult concept to grasp. I think we would need to give an example, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'm someone who gets quite an anxious tummy, so I will feel a tension in my stomach, and if I try and think to myself, it's fine, everything's fine, that's not going to work. If I try and calm myself down with my thoughts, that's actually not going to work. But if I close my eyes and take a few breaths and actually feel into the feeling into my body, that's when that feeling can start to shift.
Absolutely.
So paying attention to the feeling as opposed to using thoughts to address the feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, so being with the feeling often is a great way for it to then start to shift. Or you might notice different qualities to the feeling. You might feel the sensation move to a different part of your body. Or maybe sitting with the feeling, a particular thought might then arise. And it's okay for that thought to be there, and it can be really useful and helpful to acknowledge it. But we don't necessarily have to hold on to the thought as being the cause of the feeling. We know that from quite a lot of studies now that how we feel, say on an emotional level, helps to dictate rational thinking. And so previously, in the past, I used to think it was always like this top-down event. But actually, you have to be emotionally stable in order to make good decisions, as well as most of the information that comes up into our brain is about how we feel, and then our brain responds. So if we start to engage with our body in that way, there's a good chance that we might actually start to feel a little bit about what's happening a little bit sooner. And so there's different meditation techniques and breathing techniques that can be useful for this type of approach, particularly if it's something that you're not very comfortable with. And we can talk about different opportunities in regards to that a little bit later. It's also, after we've come to sort of get a better sense of how we're feeling about certain situations, we can then identify what's under our area of influence. Some people might use the word, what can we control? And I think more and more, we can't really control anything. I think, or very little. But we can, things are under our certain influence. So if what we choose to consume typically is under our area of influence, you know, we can make decisions that and give our body food and fuel that supports and nurtures our system. Or we could maybe go for some of those easy, quickly gratifying but not very lasting options. We can make decisions about how much we exercise. We can make decisions about the types of people that we bring into our lives, and what we expose ourselves to, be it in the news. So there's lots of things that actually are under our area of influence. How many times we wash our hands a day? Do we go out and interact with other people, or do we continue to practice social or physical distancing? So there are lots of things that actually are under our area of influence, and it is worthwhile putting our attention and energy into those things rather than things that we can't, each individual one of us can't change what's happening totally on a bigger level, but we all have our own part and thing that we can do to help us to feel safe and secure, as well as that for our family and friends. And through this process, we have to manage a certain level of uncertainty. And what we know is useful in regards to uncertainty is that there's been quite a lot of research in this area, neuroscience, where they thought that if people were given a small amount of information, that then people, the assumption was that, if you were then forced to make a decision about what to do, that people would be really cautious. But what we actually know is that the opposite is true. If you only have a really small amount of information and then you're forced to make a decision about something, or you need to make a decision, that you're actually far more inclined to make either an rational decision or a decision that you maybe should just try and step back and give yourself a little bit more time to make. So we know that getting more information is very helpful to ease a level of uncertainty, as well as help ourselves then to feel calmer and more relaxed about what we can do and what's under our area of influence. Does that make sense, Clem?
Yeah, absolutely.
Am I explaining that well? And so there are some things that at the moment nobody can answer. We don't know when our physical distancing guidelines are going to change. We don't know when we might be able to go on a holiday. We don't know if and when everyone is going to be able to return to sort of normal work or school, education, those sorts of things, or when we're going to be able to maybe hang out with our friends and have a big party. So there's lots of things that are not within our control or influence, and that no one can provide an answer to. So there's going to be an inherent level of uncertainty moving forward. And so often, not everyone will relate to this, but often people will sense a certain level of fear associated with uncertainty. And it's the type of fear, because no one can necessarily give you the answer, the fear doesn't necessarily go away. But what can be useful is to help to try and break down more specifically about exactly what that fear is. So sometimes people might think that they're fearful of the virus, for example, but then when they start to break it down and think about it a little bit more, they might be scared not necessarily for themselves, but maybe for the health and well-being of a family member, or maybe that people are worried about their mental health more than, say, the actual infection. Or they might be concerned about something completely separate that's sort of related somehow to the virus, be it financial, the economy. A lot of people are worried about that. And so that's, as much as that is being influenced by the virus, it's not the actual virus that people are uncertain of. So the more that you're able to dig into what is your actual fear, which then even worrying about the economy isn't really your fear. It might be, are you going to be able to pay the rent, pay your mortgage, buy food, have a job? Whatever that specific thing when you break it down is, it's like identifying that fear and then going, okay, what is within your area of influence that can have some kind of potential effect on the level of certainty that you can have about that aspect of your life. And that's going to help you to get an area or a sense of that you have some level of impact about that part of your life. So the more that you're able to break that down and then focus on the things that are within your level of influence, or maybe you can take some actions during this time, this period. Maybe it's focusing on developing some new skills or education. Maybe it's about redoing your budget. Maybe it's about, if you're worried about health, maybe it's focusing on exercise and sunlight and drinking more high quality water, that are things that are within your area of influence that help to manage that level of uncertainty. How are we doing there, Clem?
Good. I just wanted to say that I think just generally speaking, it's just fear of the unknown, isn't it?
Mm.
And that sense of loss of control is quite unsettling
Mm.
because we're creatures of habit. So, you know, that makes us feel grounded and like we have a sense of purpose and value in our lives, but it's all of a sudden been taken away from us. So, yeah, just that it's a general sense of the unknown, really, and navigating that.
Mm. And I really loved how you brought up purpose, Clem, because I just feel that this is so incredibly important. Because so many people, maybe you're at home and maybe you're not going to work, maybe you're completely out of your routine, that can really sometimes affect people's relationship with why do they get out of bed every day. You know,
Yeah.
I feel very fortunate and blessed as an osteopath that I love to get up and do what I do every single day. Like, I want to jump out of bed. It's just like, woohoo, I love that, right? I love, seeing the results and working with people and supporting people. I'm just so incredibly passionate about that. And I can't imagine not feeling like that. And I know that not everyone feels like that about what they do every day. But certainly maybe your purpose is built around your family. Maybe it's, you know, voluntary work that you do in the community. Maybe it's a particular passion project or hobby that you have that provides a lot of meaning and value for you. So what that's going to be for everyone is going to be individual. And if you can't actually do some of those things at the moment, that might be affecting your sense of purpose and value, not just to yourself, but to other people in your community. And so tapping into ways that helps you to live out whatever your purpose is also incredibly valuable at this time. And working on these different aspects of ourselves helps us to cultivate or build resilience, hopefully not resistance. We want to be resilient, and part of that is about being adaptable to change. Okay, so we are going to be kind of maybe a little bit challenged, but really we want to be thinking abundantly, and that there is opportunity for growth and learning, as well as maybe nurturing and reflection during this time about ourselves and our lives, and that maybe we've got a chance to really maybe make some really long-term positive changes. And it's at least giving us, most of us, an opportunity to take a breath, to really be able to consider that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so we were talking about, scientifically supported ways to increase resilience. Well, we sort of already talked about identifying the fear. But then I think change the narrative is a valuable tool. And a way, what I mean by that is that often, particularly if we have maybe a stress or, maybe not seeing the positives in a particular situation, sometimes it's hard to find positives in stressful or difficult circumstances. But often where there's the most potential impact for positive change is that trying to find things to be grateful for, or find new ways to maybe look at a certain situation, or a way to feel more positively in a genuine way, not in a like, well, I'm just going to think positive until I am positive, but actually really digging into, how can this be something that is useful, and what can I learn from this experience, even if it maybe is a little bit challenging. And often what we find is what science says, not what we just find, is that people who journal daily for 5 days and challenge themselves to really think about the situation differently. So maybe you write down something that you're struggling with, and then think about different ways of how you can maybe think about that a little bit differently. If you do this for 6 days in a row, people often feel a lot better about what the thing is that they're wanting to shift. So it doesn't work if you just do it once. What they find is that you need to be doing it nearly every day for a few days in a row before you're going to start to see a shift.
Well, that's neuroplasticity, right? You're creating new neural pathways. So it doesn't happen overnight, and your brain needs repetition to know that that's the new norm.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have clear the mind. So some ways, certainly meditation and breathing practices are different ways, maybe prayer, depending on your cultural background and your religious influences. All of these different things can be used to help to clear the mind, which helps us maybe feel like we're connected to ourselves, maybe connected to something bigger than ourselves, in a way to, rather than thinking about something, but just to sit and just be and allow ourselves to be however it is that we are at that particular point in time. And certainly there are different, if this is something that's completely unfamiliar to you, there's certainly some types of simple ways that people can start to practice this. One of them is called a body scan. So it's a type of feeling into your body and then tensing it up and then letting it go and trying to relax while using breathing, for example. So we're going to make some links available for some of these tools over the next days and weeks. Another one is slowing down your breathing pattern and just focusing on the breath. And that can be a really useful tool. So maybe you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and hold for 4 seconds. And initially it can feel a little bit uncomfortable if you're not used to doing that, particularly if it's a lot slower than what your normal breathing rate is. But, often people find if they practice that, and it's certainly a technique that's used even by, even like by the military to help people to remain clear and calm under strain, as a way to kind of help people physiologically, so in their body, remain calm and centered. Another practice is self-compassion. Oh, what were you going to say, Clem?
Oh, can I butt in?
Yeah,
I was just going to say, it's just another way to clear the mind and also come back to sort of what's in front of you. Is, I don't know, if you find yourself just scrolling on social media or watching the news and just getting like fuzzy eyes or whatever, just coming back to naming like 5 objects in the room, so that your attention comes back to actually what's surrounding you. And that can be a really powerful exercise.
I find that really particularly great in nature.
Yes, even better. Yeah. And then I was going to add, for the gratitude one, a good one to do is if you're sitting around the table with your family at the end of the day for dinner, so everyone can say each 3 positives of their day. But on a personal level, I find that in the morning, if I'm already feeling a little bit angry or frustrated or a bit agitated.
That doesn't sound like you, so I don't believe that.
Well, that's the mind, right? If I think of doing or thinking about what I'm grateful for, I can feel resistance, but there's always something that I'm grateful for. So it's definitely worth it in the end. It can just seem like a bit of a mental hurdle to start with.
Absolutely. Yeah. I totally agree with that, for sure. Compassion. Having compassion is a practice. It doesn't necessarily come the first time either, like lots of these things, but it's having a supportive, clear care without necessarily taking something on as your own burden. Or at least that's the way that I put it in my own words. Do you have a different way of putting that, Clem?
Can you say your way again?
It's about sitting with something. Well, I don't know exactly how I said it, but like sitting with someone or something and caring, but not taking it on necessarily as your own.
Interesting. For me, self-compassion is about uh, meeting myself every day where I need to be met. And that changes every single day
I
of my
agree with
life.
that as well. Yeah. You know, yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, just not forcing things, because that's when you feel like you're disappointing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And practicing forgiveness. And this one, I think, sometimes, particularly in a global pandemic, it's like, well, who am I meant to forgive? And it's like, I think this could be good to like write down the list, like the naughty, who's been naughty, right? The naughty list. And it might be your own self might come on the list, you know, things that you've done might come on the list, or, you know, how you wish you might have responded differently in a certain situation, for example, and practice forgiveness for that. Okay. And that, you know, if you do this days and days in a row, the same things might come on the list. And it's okay. You just have to forgive it again. You will eventually forgive yourself and it will stop appearing on the list. But, you know, I often say, I forgive you. I love you. Thank you for being a wonderful teacher in my life. Okay. So that, I think, for me is something that I find really beneficial. But, you know, sometimes you have to forgive the government. And sometimes you have to forgive, like, you know, an organization. Maybe you have to forgive the World Health Organization. Or maybe you have to forgive, like, something that doesn't really necessarily make sense. Like, hospitals not having enough gloves. Like, sometimes the things you have to forgive don't have to necessarily make a lot of sense. But it can be a valuable process for yourself to feel better under the circumstances, so you don't have to carry that burden. Would you say that forgiveness doesn't always have to make sense, Clem?
Absolutely. I feel like there's a lot more I want to say about that, but I can't really see it clearly just now. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about that another time. We're going to be running a few more of these for people to watch. So that's okay. But I think the thing is that it's worth, you don't have to do all of the things that we're talking about. We're giving you some tools, and it's useful to think about what you think that you can implement for yourself. And maybe not just trying it once and going, well, that didn't work, and give up, but maybe you have to do it a little bit consistently for maybe a few days or a week, and then see if you think maybe you're getting some benefit from making maybe just one change with what you do. And I think sometimes it's challenging to work out which one to pick. So do you have any advice for people, Clem, about what might be the thing to pick?
Yeah. Or I don't know. It's either one is natural, that you're naturally drawn to one of those 5 things, or you're more inclined to just tune into what you feel you need every day. So it could be a combination of all of the 5, but the point is that you have to start somewhere, and that start with the one that you're naturally drawn to and do it often, and, you know, never give up. So if there's one day that you forget, if there's a month that you forget, that doesn't mean you failed. It's just that you've got to start again the next day, and that's fine, because you've got lots of self-compassion and forgiveness to give out.
Absolutely. I think sometimes too, it can be picking the thing. Sometimes it's a thing that feels like, oh yeah, I think I could do that. Like, it's something that you think, oh yeah, I can definitely implement that into your life. It doesn't feel like this gigantic, you know, you don't have this massive resistance to it. So that sometimes that's the right thing to pick, because you think, oh yeah, I could do that because it fits into this other thing that I already do. But it's also worth considering the thing that you are most resistant to. Maybe it's not in this little list that we have in front of us. Maybe it's one of the other things that we already talked about. Because sometimes it's worth trying the thing that you're most resistant to as well, because sometimes that's really digging into the thing that you're most resisting to change. So I think you can go, it depends on your personality, probably depends on your habits and what you already do. So you can go with the thing that feels like the right thing to do, or you can sit with, why is that one particular thing making me uncomfortable? And that might be worth exploring a little bit. And from there, you have the opportunity to make a plan about what it is that you can implement this week that might support you and help you to be more resilient during this time. Then that way you're working towards, the person that you want to be during COVID-19. I thought this was really interesting from the World Health Organization. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. And I think that fits really nicely with the osteopathic concept, but it's really this recognition that it's not just the absence of disease. Health is so much more, and that so often we don't have the opportunity to really sit with that. We think, well, we're not sick, so I'm fine. Yeah, but maybe this is a chance to feel even better than what you already do now. So a quick recap: identifying what is your natural tendency, thinking about things about how you can, ways to manage uncertainty, and then how can we build resilience and not have resistance. So like I said, feel free to contact us if you'd like any of the slides. And what we're happy to announce is that we're going to be creating another webinar about healthy goal setting. And that's going to happen over the next 1 to 2 weeks. And so we'd really love for you to join us with that. But also we'd love it if you got in touch with us and let us know how you went with implementing some of the things that we talked about in today's presentation, and or if you need any assistance and support with implementing any of these things, because we're here to help you. Now, obviously, Clem and I have both been on screen today, but we're not the only people involved in our team. Obviously, Courtney and Elizabeth, are all part of what we're presenting today, and are also able to support you through this process at this time. And that what we know is that we're better together. The more that we're able to support, ourselves and then each other, the better off that we're going to be throughout this time. Now, if you'd like any further assistance or support from us, we would just like to let you know that we're also offering online consultations. Not everyone is able to come into the clinic for a face-to-face appointment at the moment. And that, we've been really overwhelmed by how much people have really enjoyed and got out of the process of doing online consults. I think for lots of people, it's been a really foreign or a strange idea and how to have an osteopathic consultation. But, people have found, really incredible benefit from it. And would you like to talk a little bit about your experience with it, Clem?
Yeah, I feel like it's been really well received, and I do think that it's taken a bit of a, mentality shift, and for us included, but not in a negative way. I think it's just really pushed us to support our patients and our community in a different way. So we're making sure that we cover more of the self-management strategies that people have at home, and all the other things that we've discussed today. So sort of health in a broader sense of the term, rather than just an issue that's come up, at one point in your life. So yeah, good changes.
Yeah, and I really love from focus towards long-term change.
Mm.
You know, how do you sustain change over a period of time and really make not just an impact to, you know, how you're going to feel today or tomorrow, but how you're going to be in 3, 5, 10 years time.
Absolutely.
So where to find us? You can find us on Facebook. We're posting things every day. You can find more information and blogs and useful tools on our website. You can also find us on Instagram. You can just get in touch. You can give us a call. We're here for you. Send us an email. We love hearing from people, even if it's not just to make an appointment, but to say hi. Let us know how you're going. We'd love that. Awesome. Well, I think it's time for us to go. It was lovely chatting, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.